A vehicle run by a crew that's on the same tactical page is infinitely more useful than otherwise. In this video, we'll be going over the basics of crew coordination, which can be applied to any number of vehicle types in Arma. We'll also cover the gunner's fire control systems briefly. For our purposes, there are three potential crew types: the driver, gunner, and commander. We'll go over each role briefly, and then talk about coordination from there. For instruction, I'll be using a Russian BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle. Note that different vehicles will have different characteristics and abilities for their crew. Let's start by talking about the different perspectives of the crew members in a BMP-3. First, we have the driver. The driver has two ways to view the world, either turned out and sticking out of his hatch, or through the front vision port. More often than not, he's restricted to the vision port due to a quirk in Arma where crew members can only turn out of their vehicle if the vehicle commander is also turned out. Thus, the driver has low visibility and can only really see a small arc to the front. Next, the gunner. Due to being in control of the turret, the gunner has the ability to slew his view in any direction and take advantage of the high-powered optics package used to aim his weaponry. On some vehicles, the gunner is also able to turn out, such as with a BMP-3, but the same caveat applies regarding the vehicle commander. The gunner's optics are typically quite magnified and can make it difficult to keep situational awareness. This is where the vehicle commander comes into play. The vehicle commander can turn out at will, and typically has a viewport that he can slew around while turned in. On the BMP-3, this has multiple zoom states, and is a good way to scan around the vehicle. Note too that each crew member is higher in the vehicle than the last. The driver's perspective is low to the ground, the gunner's is above that, and the commander's is higher still. The crew's seniority is in that order as well, with the driver being most junior and the commander most senior. The commander, or VC for vehicle commander, is in charge of the vehicle overall. He directs both the driver and gunner in their tasks. In order to do this smoothly and efficiently, he uses established brevity commands. Let's talk about how he directs the vehicle's movement first. All crew members see a compass strip at the top of their screens, and this forms the basis of many commands. For instance, the commander tells his driver where to face by giving him a command, in this case orient, and a direction. For example, driver, orient 230. That'll tell the driver to line his vehicle to a compass direction of 230. Orientation commands can be used to face the strong armor of a vehicle in the direction of a threat, or orient the vehicle in preparation of movement. When the commander wants a driver to move, he states it first with a direction, reverse or forward, and then with a speed, slow, normal, and full or fast. These speeds correspond to the Q, W, and E keyboard keys, and look as follows. If the VC wants a driver to move particularly slowly, he'll state very slow, and the driver will comply by tapping his Q key to maintain a slow speed. The VC will also give driving directions based on landmarks, roads, and other things visible from the driver's point of view. For instance, a commander might tell a driver to head to a given direction and upon reaching a road, follow it in a specific direction. Or he might tell his driver to halt before a specific terrain feature, or any number of other things. When appropriate, the commander will tell the driver to move specific increments, measured in meters, or be prepared to change direction or speed in a given distance. These types of commands prepare the driver to make a change instead of constantly surprising him with sudden new changes. For instance, driver, in 200 meters we will halt behind the ridge. Then later, driver, halt. Or just halt. When driving in more open areas, the commander can also use full, half, and quarter turn commands to change the driver's direction. These are standardized commands that can be easier to rapidly employ than compass-based orientation changes. We'll start from the biggest turn and get smaller, as it's easier to visualize it that way. A full turn involves turning the vehicle 90 degrees in a given direction, roughly perpendicular to the prior direction of travel. The command for this is simply driver, left full, or driver, full left. Next, a half turn is what it sounds like, half of a full turn or about 45 degrees in the given direction. The command for this is driver, half left. Finally, a quarter turn is about 22 degrees, or half of a half turn. The command is driver, quarter left. There are two additional methods for controlling turns. In the event that you need to do a particularly shallow turn, simply say slight left or slight right. If you need to do a large turn, you can leave out the increment mentioned earlier and give a steady command when the driver has turned the desired amount. For example, driver, turn left. Steady. When it comes to issuing commands, a vehicle commander must be aware of the delay present in giving and reacting to verbal orders. He must anticipate this and give his commands slightly in advance, particularly when giving halt commands or time-sensitive turns. Another topic worth covering is that of how a crew communicates hold down emplacement. The vehicle commander decides on a hold down position and gives the initial directions to the driver. Upon reaching the position and moving forward to give the gunner a view, the gunner watches through his sights and he's the one who gives the driver a halt command, at the point at which he's able to see and potentially strike at the engagement area. The last major VC command is for jockeying. Jockeying is a concept where a vehicle that is positioned in a hold down location reverses into cover, drives sideways, then pops back into a hold down position. A VC calls to this by saying, "Driver, jockey left 100 meters, giving the distance to move." The driver reverses into cover, turns fully in the direction indicated, drives the indicated distance, then turns back to the original direction and advances back to a hold down position. That covers the primary VC to driver communication methods. Note that the commander should be on the lookout for friendly infantry near the vehicle, and will be the person responsible for clearing the rear of the vehicle in the event that a reverse is needed. Moving on to the VC gunner communication, the same concept of orientation applies. When referring to the gunner, the VC simply prefaces all of his commands with the word gunner. This alerts the gunner that the command is intended for him. Note that as a VC, you'll be able to see your orientation, as well as the gunner's orientation, in the upper left. This can be used to ensure you're both looking at the same thing. However, the gunner cannot see your orientation. The indicator only shows for the turret from his point of view. Generally, the gunner will be able to choose his weapon on his own and doesn't need to be guided by the VC. In the event that he seems to be using the wrong weapon, or the VC wants to employ something specifically, the VC will simply state so: "Gunner, use MG," or "Gunner, use cannon, high explosive." The VC can also order the gunner to load a particular ammo type for weapons that can employ them. For example, a VC might tell his gunner to load armor-piercing rounds when he anticipates an armored threat. If a VC sees a target that the gunner needs to be directed on, he'll guide him with a command such as "Gunner, 170, enemy tank." The gunner notes whether he can see the target by stating "seen," "visual," or "similar," while if he doesn't see it, he'll say "not seen, no joy," or something similarly clear. The VC can help the gunner adjust his fire when engaging targets, as his view will not be as obstructed by the gunner's muzzle blast and similar. Finally, let's take a brief look at the gunner's fire control system in Ace 2. Note that some commander stations will have this functionality as well, and some vehicles will be lacking it entirely. As a gunner, press Tab to initialize your FCS. You'll see a set of numbers appear at the bottom of your screen, and Tab will now act as your lasing key. Aim at something and press Tab to get a range and automatically zero your selected weapon to that distance. If the number flashes as a range, the target is too far for your selected weapon to reach. If the number is zeroed out in flashing, the target is too close to range, and the weapon will be set to the lowest adjustment. The small yellow light on the left of the range indicator shows when the laser is available for use again. In addition to ranging static targets, the FCS can also account for target movement. To activate this adjustment, track a target steadily for a second or so, then press Tab. Continue tracking and begin firing, and you'll see the lead automatically applied. If you need to manually dump the lead, press K or select Dump Lead from your action menu. Lasing again while stationary will also dump the lead. Moving on from there are two final brevity commands that must be well understood by both crew and any passengers embarked. Dismount is a command used to tell embarked passengers, such as infantry, to exit the vehicle, while on the other hand, bail out, bail out, bail out is an emergency command intended to get everyone out of the vehicle as soon as possible, typically due to having taken heavy damage. If you'd like to know more about operating as a vehicle crew, check out the relevant section of my TTP2 guide here, and linked in the description. Until next time, take care.